Yo, 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 it's your girl and boy CT. I'm Cindy Barnes.
And I'm Travis Barnes.
And we are the founders of the Overcomers Podcast.
The Overcomers Podcast is designed to help you overcome adversity and live your dreams. Every week we will be sharing stories of people who found their strength in their struggle. The Overcomers Podcast is sponsored by Journey 333, and that's a lot of threes, so let me tell you what it is. It's fitness, coaching, and nutrition. It is a place where we help you to look better, live better, and feel better, and it is mind, body, spirit. Today, we're going to help you get your mind right with our special guest. Hello, Overcomer Nation. I am so excited. Today, I have a mentor. I have a mentor on this call. I have somebody that has helped change my life in a very positive way. It was one of the most soulful adventures I've ever gone on, and it's a company that I've decided to come into alignment with and just want to learn from and be part of. And today on the call, I have the founder of Sedona Soul Adventures. It's Debra Stangl, and she is the founder of Sedona Soul Adventures. She is an international bestseller, The Journey to Happy. Let me just tell you a little bit about Debra. Basically, in the Journey to Happy, she recounts how she was unhappy, stressed out divorce attorney who was $50K in debt and then 40 pounds overweight. Once she came into alignment, she was down to her ideal weight within 5 weeks without dieting, or, because she was all doing the work of her dreams. So, Debra, welcome to the call. Welcome to the call.
Thanks, Travis. It's really, really great to be here and see you again.
Yeah, it's really great to have you on the podcast. I feel so blessed. I can't say enough good things about you. There's, this is going to be part video, part audio, and I want to encourage you guys to check out the video clips because Debra, hopefully she'll share some of her secrets to the fountain of youth because she is just an amazing person to see inside and out. If you could you just take us back? Because I just want to know how it all started. I know I just alluded to it a little bit with your bio, but how did you start Sedona Soul Adventures? What were you searching for? And what were you trying to solve when you did it? What was going on in your life?
Well, it all came from my own journey of just being burnt out and stressed out and unhappy. And it literally came from me healing myself. I was a divorce attorney for 20 years in Omaha, Nebraska. And other than the part where I felt like I was helping my clients, which was only about 10% of what I was doing, because it just felt like the other 90% was dealing with all the upsets and with fighting the system and fighting with the other attorneys. And I really hated it. And I did it for 20 years and felt like I had to, it was like one of those things where you get into doing something and you feel stuck. And even if you're unhappy, you don't know what to do. And I had tried for many years to try to figure out something else that I wanted to do. And I could never figure anything out. And it was funny because I'd been on my spiritual path since 1978 when my mother passed away. Very sadly, she died from cancer and she was only 51 when she passed. And so for the last 5 years that I was in my law practice, I would pray and meditate every day. And I would say, oh God, I'm so unhappy. Tell me what to do. I was actually complaining.
Right. Just throw me a lifeline, right? Yeah, for real.
And I would hear this little voice that would say, you need to leave your law practice. And I would immediately go, how can I possibly leave my law practice? At that point, I was $50,000 in debt from some bad business decisions that my now ex-husband had made, but I was responsible for because we were married. And it's like, and I was the sole support for the two of us. It's like, how can I possibly leave my law practice? I wouldn't even go any further than asking the question. I would get that answer and then I would actually get angry. I wouldn't. So finally, at the very beginning of 1999, I had just started my 20th year of practice. I was so miserably unhappy. I was in a bad marriage. I also weighed 40 pounds more than I weigh now. Like I said, I was $50,000 in debt. And I was working with an energy worker in Omaha, and she said, I feel like you need to do something. I was really at the end of my rope. And I decided to come to Sedona for 3 days, for just what I thought was going to be just 3 days of being quiet. And instead, I ended up doing one session with one of our amazing practitioners. She's still an amazing practitioner for me, and my best friend, one of my best friends. And in that session, suddenly I had a vision. And in this vision, my high self came to me as Isis, the winged Egyptian goddess.
Wow.
And she said to me, you either leave your law practice now or you're going to die like your mother did. Oh. And I figured out I was exactly the age my mother was when she got sick and died 5 years later from cancer. And I could see that I was on the exact same path. I was unhappy. I was frustrated. I felt stuck. And so this time I got the message and I went home and I spent 2 weeks trying to figure out with my lawyer brain how I was possibly going to leave my law practice when I was $50,000 in debt, had no money in savings. I was the sole support. And suddenly there was this one day, and I talk about it in the book, where all of a sudden I went into this space of just, all I can say is it was a form of surrender. And I said, okay, God, I get it. I have to do this. I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And I've got to have some help. And literally within a few hours, I got a phone call from one of my clients whose case was finished. I don't know why he called me. And at the end of the conversation, he suddenly told me he had bought a business refinancing mortgages. And I said to him, could you get my mortgage payment reduced? And he called me back in 10 minutes and he said, I can get your mortgage payment cut in half.
Wow.
And I can get you $50,000 in cash.
Wow.
Now, I had never told anybody that I was $50,000 in debt. I was embarrassed by that. Right. And suddenly I'm like, okay, so this burden that I had had for 5 years was suddenly lifted by going into this space of surrender. And so I spent 6 months closing my law practice and started then coming out to Sedona. I'd come out for a month at a time and I would do healing work with different practitioners that I was finding. I'd come out for a month, then I go home to Omaha for a month or so. Then I come back for a month and I would do more healing work with different people. Then I would go back. And I did that for 3 years. So the joke at the office is that my soul adventure took 3 years. Everybody else does it in 3 or 4 days. And then 2 weeks before 9/11, I was in Sedona again doing a session, and suddenly my high self came in again and in a vision, and she said, it's time to move to Sedona. And I'm like, for what? And my experience is with these things, they never show you the whole thing. They just show you the next step. Mm-hmm. And by that time, I had learned that I really needed to follow what I was being told. So I went home to Omaha. They said it would take 6 months to sell my house. I sold it in 3 days for more money than I even listed it for. And I moved out to Sedona and sat here for 6 months going, okay, I did what you told me. Now what?
Right.
And I suddenly started having dreams about this. And what they were showing me was that I could take what had taken me 3 years and condense that into a 3 or 4 day experience with people doing what I had done, working one-on-one in private with these amazing practitioners. And so that's how it all started. And I started with 10 people in my house illegally. and it's so, and now we have over 80 practitioners. It's been 20 years. It's been absolutely amazing what has happened. I'm still amazed at what happens. And the thing that's so incredible was I never did, as I look back, I never did any of this with the idea of, I want to start a business and I want to do this. And it was never that. It was just my own personal healing and following my own journey. And then just doing step by step what seemed to be the next logical thing.
Wow. That's just such an amazing story. It's so amazing. In fact, I was a fan of the book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Have you ever heard of that? It's by Robert.
Yes,
Farmer.
I love that. I love that book.
Well, he wrote it as a fable, but I feel like you're the real life version of it, right? the stressed out lawyer who's basically, about to have a heart attack or does, and then needs to go and heal himself by, he climbs in the Tibetan mountains and hangs out with the monks. You went to Sedona and, then of course, just basically, I think you accepted your life's purpose, and then all this synchronicity happens, right? And I wanted to ask you, your take on that, because there's so many things you pointed out, like nobody knew that I needed $50,000. I got $50,000. This client calls me that wasn't even my client anymore, tells me about what he's doing. You're like you said, okay, I'm ready to do this. And when you are willing to do what you're being called to do, all of a sudden things start to show up. I mean, is that how you would describe it? I mean, you're my mentor, right? I appreciate having you in my life, but how do you explain these things that just kind of arrive like that?
Well, it's all about everything that we do here, which is helping people to move back into connection on all the levels: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And really understanding that if you're trying to do everything from the standpoint of just everyday reality and linear reality and all that kind of thing, that is not where the magic is. Okay. And you can work really hard. That's what I did for 20 years as an attorney. I worked really hard and I made a lot of stuff happen and all of that, but that's not where the magic is. So what we're doing here and what the secret is to first of all, find and release and move out the blocks and the wounds and the gunk, what I lovingly call the gunk, that we all have. Okay. We all have it from the time that we're, very, very young. Things are happening to us. And so things are happening to move us out of connection. When we're in connection and operating in connection with that highest part of ourselves. And we have a lot of people who come here who don't believe in God. They don't believe in, pretty much anything, but they believe in the energy and they believe in the idea of creating your own reality and how you do it. And I believe that it's finding the ways of aligning with that highest part of yourself so that, again, you're operating in connection on all the levels: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. When you are operating there, that is when the magic happens. That's when people show up. That's when things happen. That's when you go, oh my gosh, look at what just happened. Yeah. And so it's finding ways, and that's exactly what we're doing, is helping people so that they are releasing, we're finding and releasing what's holding them back, and then moving them in connection and giving them the tools to stay in connection. That's where you come in, because you are now going to be one of our amazing coaches. And so that's part of what the soul coaching does, is to continually help people to stay in that connection.
I'm so honored to be part of this wonderful team. It was one of the most extraordinary experiences I ever had in my life, coming to Sedona. Certainly the most spiritual experience I've ever had in my life. And every single practitioner that I met just wowed me in a different way. And I too felt like I was on this, monk who sold his Ferrari journey. Like, my first meeting, I had to go over the river and through the woods, and I'm at your heart's home. And, I'm between this masculine rock and this feminine rock, and there's these energies, which I will want you to talk a little bit about Sedona in that way as part of this. But, I did want to ask. And
what a coincidence, of course, not a coincidence, that the person that you went to, it was Ranjita, the person that I did that session with 23 years ago, that all of this has come from that one session that I did with her 23 years ago. So, and then you weren't even you originally weren't scheduled with her, right?
No, it was
something happened. Yes.
It was a last minute replacement, coincidentally, right?
Right.
Yeah. And, it's so funny because you guys create these wonderful care packages. I mean, it's such a wow experience when you first arrive to just see how the red carpet's just rolled out for you. And I remember there being tissues in the box, and me being a manly man, I was like, oh, I won't need the tissues. My first session at Ranjita, tears are streaming down my face, and I'm like, oh, thank God they gave us these tissues, because I sure need them now. But I mean, it was a very healing experience. It was just a wonderful experience, and all just divinely orchestrated. And I guess that's where I get back to what you were saying is you get out of your own way. You talked about clearing out the gunk, and then things open up. I remember reading this one time. I'm not sure who it was by, but it's like, I've never met a man who's given me as much trouble as myself, right? And it's really, like we give ourselves so much trouble. Like we block the things that we want to come into our life because we just need to clear some things out. Is that kind of what you feel you did when all the synchronicity started happening that led you to Sedona? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're doing with everybody that comes here, because everybody that comes here, like I said, the blocks, the wounds, the gunk. And what it really comes down to is that almost everybody has some sort of story that they're running about what's wrong. And that is why the subtitle of my book is that how embracing the concept that nothing is wrong can transform your life. And it really starts with you making that decision about yourself, because almost everybody that I have ever worked with, first as an attorney for 20 years, now with doing Sedona Soul Adventures for 20 years, most people, almost everybody has some sort of version of, I'm not good enough, I'm not enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not thin enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not, it shows up for everybody in a different way. And that's why our retreats are private, because what's going on for each person is different for each person. But there's some element of, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, there's something wrong with me. And finding that, moving that out, and then using the processes that we have to move people back into this connection with that highest part of themselves, that part that was never wounded, that has never been anything but pure love. And when we connect with that, and that's our own loving ourselves, which is the most powerful, powerful thing that we can do, then that's when everything just starts to move in amazing and magical ways.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the process of a Sedona Soul Adventure, because I went on one, and I would love the listeners to really understand that we're talking about. And you've designed your retreats, which, by the way, you've been voted the best marriage retreat for, I think, 3 years in a row.
5 years in a row, actually.
Excuse me. Yeah. 5 years in a row, right? Okay, that's amazing. And it really was. I mean, I'd recommend it if you're about to get married, or if you've been married for a while and you need to. We never connected on such a level as my wife and I did on that retreat, because I mean, we could really understand each other better and understand why I act out of my core wounds a little bit, the way that I do, sometimes working excessively for approval, which was something that happened way back in my childhood that I still carried with me and I had to figure out. And that's what you do. You do it in such a unique way. If somebody was to go on a Sedona Soul Adventure, say, oh, I'm very curious about this, I want to go to Sedona and I want to do this private coaching thing that they're talking about on this podcast, how would you describe it? Like, what happens first, and then what's the process, and what will they go through, if you would?
Right. Well, the thing that makes us so different from everything that's out there is that we are custom designing each retreat for each individual or each couple. We don't work with groups. We work only one-on-one or two-on-one with individuals and couples, because what I said a few minutes ago is what brought you to where you are is different than what brought Cindy to where she is. Yes. What brought one person to where they are is what is different. And so we spend a whole lot of time talking to each person one-on-one, on the phone or on Zoom, however they want to do it. We speak with you and spend a lot of time really getting an idea of what's going on, what's happening, what do you want to have happen? And then based on that, and if it's a couple, we speak with each of you separately, and then we get together with you as a couple. And so based on talking to you and really getting an idea of what's going on, we custom designed the retreats. And like I said, we have over 70 practitioners. They all do different, all kinds of different things: energy work, breath work, yoga, meditation, EMDR, tapping. The list of everything that we have is just absolutely incredible and amazing. And so based on connecting with you, we put together a retreat that is designed to take you from where you are to where you want to be. And usually, so that's a minimum of 3 days, not counting travel time, 3 full days. And we also do the retreats online. We started doing that during the pandemic. And, at the time I was like, oh gosh, are we really going to be able to deliver the same kind of punch in, doing it on Zoom? But it's been so amazing because my practitioners are so incredible at utilizing the incredible energy that's here in Sedona, and then connecting the person that they're working with that energy. So it doesn't matter whether you're in their healing space here or whether you're in your living room at home, it's still going to have that tremendous power. So people are here a minimum of 3 days for individuals, a minimum of 4 days for couples. Most people are here 5 or 6 days. That's really optimal, so that you also have time to, if you're here going out in Sedona and experiencing Sedona, because it's so incredibly beautiful.
Yes.
And so the sessions are designed to build on each other. The retreat has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it starts typically with informational kinds of sessions, and then the clearing sessions, the sessions that are designed to really, really, really find and discover and release the energy, the wounds, the blocks, the gunk, moving that out. And then we move you into our processes that are literally designed to put you into connection with that highest part of yourself. And then we do other sessions after that to really cement that in. Then at the very end, our last session is an integration session that's all about how to incorporate this into your life on a day-to-day basis. And then we have ongoing coaching after that. And that's just been so exciting too, because what we care the most about is people having this in their lives, really integrating it into their lives, really having it part of their life. And so we want people to have a huge experience here, and everybody does. But the most important part is being able to take that home and really, really, really have that as part of your life, and to have your life be different after you've done this. The most gratifying thing that I have is, every week I get an email or a phone call or something from somebody who's been here, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and telling me that it changed their life. Yeah. And that they still see the impact of it in their daily life. That is just the most gratifying thing ever.
Yeah, I think that's why I've always done what I do, at least since 1996. I've been a coach in some form, fashion, or another, and it's because there's 2 paychecks, the one that you hope to pay your bills with, but the fulfillment of helping somebody else, with a life transformation. And let me just give that testimony that you can't go on a Sedona Soul Adventure and ever be the same. It's a very positive, life-changing experience. And one thing that I do want to emphasize that you touched on, but I just want to say that I got so much more out of that first call than I expected. And I really had to challenge myself to say, okay, Travis, you're about to go on this Sedona Soul Adventure, and she's asking you some tough questions. Are you ready for that? And so I answered those questions, and I answered them honestly and candidly. And I know that that's what allowed, it's called a soul guide, right? Right?
Yes.
The soul guide to pick the right practitioners for what I was needing. Because as you mentioned, there's so many modalities. I know the breath work is a huge part of your program, but, I went out to the desert and I'm listening to drums and flutes being played, and I'm in this unique type of energy and just such beautiful nature. And I'm being asked some of these core wound questions and just kind of uncovering myself and getting to know myself in such a different way than I ever had before. But it all began with being willing to be honest on the first call so that you could design that perfect adventure for me.
Oh yeah, we're going deep
Yeah.
from the get-go.
Yeah.
And we occasionally will have people who will call us, and on that first call, they're like, whoa, wait, this is more than I thought it was going to be. And that's what people say about all of it. I mean, my favorite thing with people who do reviews is they're always saying, oh, this was so much more than I expected. And that's exactly what we want. I mean, this is life-changing. It's transformational. And so that's what we do. And so that's what makes it just so exciting.
Yeah. And, I guess I want to talk, since I talked about going out into the desert, you've taken people on, I don't know how many trips to Egypt and, right, Peru, is that right, as well? And, there you are, having your Sedona Soul Adventures, obviously in Sedona. There's a unique type of energy that you help people to experience that they can only experience in these certain parts of the world. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, what you've come to learn about it or what you've personally experienced from it?
Yeah, I definitely believe that there are places around the world that have very special energy, and Sedona is definitely one of them. And it's called vortex energy here. Different people use different names for it, but I think it's the same thing. Whether you're talking about here or in Egypt or Peru or Stonehenge or, these different places that are around the world. And it's interesting because a lot of scientists have studied the energy that's here, and they really have determined that there is something very different and very unusual here and in other places. Now, the energy that's here in Sedona is very much the energy of transformation. And so that is why when people come here, they feel different. And one of the things that we talk about is that the veils are thinner here, the veils to other worlds. And that's why, especially when you go out on the land, and you can really, really feel it. So when people ask the question of, what is a vortex and what does that mean? You can really get all kinds of different answers. And so, for example, scientists will tell you that the energy is, electromagnetic. There's something else that's going on. The Native Americans that are here will tell you that this is the energy of the earth. And that if you will just even take a little bit of time to sit and connect with it, that you can literally feel it. Now, what I believe, and I've traveled all over the world now, because my favorite thing to do, I don't like to go on just regular plain old vacations where you just, you just go on a vacation and you come back. I love going to energy spots around the world. It's my favorite thing to do, because you come back changed and it's different and the energies are different in different places. And what I believe after all these years, I believe that these places around the world are the places literally where the God energy or the energy of the universe or the energy of all that is, whatever you want to call it, I believe this is where that energy comes onto the planet.
Wow.
And that is why I believe that, especially in a place like Sedona, where it's transformational energy that's here, that's why this energy is not anywhere else in the world. Yeah. And that's why people have one of the reasons why people have such huge transformations here that last. And so that's why I also love going to Egypt. This next year, I'll be going on my 23rd trip to Egypt.
23rd. Oh my goodness. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, I've been taking groups there every year since 2004. And then Peru also just incredible. And I used to take groups to Bali. That's been another thing. And I'm probably going to, I've had a lot of people asking me to do the Bali trip again. And I think I might in the next couple of years, because again, the energy there is just absolutely amazing and incredible.
Wow. That's such a unique description. And I can testify that there was this amazing energy there, and just really strange things that were happening. Cindy and I driving in, and there's this full moon, and the people feel that energy too, because they just kind of have this unique faith in the energy, which is everybody kind of seemed to have this. Not that we were just to clarify, we were never really very late, but like everybody was like, "Oh, you're right here when you're supposed to be," and like that kind of thing. Just a very strong spiritual grounding that was going on. Just amazing. So,
well, and you don't even have to believe in it. It's so funny because the first year that I was coming here, I would go to the vortexes and I was trying to force feeling something. I went and of course, when you're trying to force something, it doesn't happen.
Sure.
And it took a long time before I finally started going there and literally feeling something. So then one of my brothers, I have 4 brothers, and he's a medical doctor and very skeptical about, any of this stuff. So he came for a visit and I took him up to Airport Vortex and we sit down, and I mean, immediately his hands and feet started tingling.
mm-hmm. Right.
And
You're
I'm
like, wait a second, I've been coming here.
This is not fair.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, for instance, I've always thought of myself as, retiring someplace warm, but I always pictured it by an ocean. But I can tell you that the energy in Sedona is so welcoming. I started rethinking that while I was there. I was like, oh, that's just amazing. I don't know whether it's retiring. Maybe it's just getting out of the snow, because I don't really ever see myself as a retired person. But so enough about that. Just you mentioned something earlier that I want to circle back to. And it's way at the beginning of the call, but we've kind of talked about energies and God energy and this and that. You used the word they. And you were talking about how you could see part of the picture, which made you want to step forward. But you said they never show you the whole thing, right? There's like this element of faith that's required. And I believe many different faiths speak to this. But when you say they, who is they to you? I'm just curious.
So I believe that we all have guides, and they kind of show up in different ways. Different people believe in, angels and which, I do too. And I grew up Catholic, which I'm really happy for, because Catholics are so mystical. I mean, they believe in angels and all that, and they believe in miracles and stuff like that. So that's actually very metaphysical, and I love it that I grew up that way. So
I still remember my Catholic homework. I had to take my middle name. I think we got to choose between our first or middle name, depending on what we're looking up, and figure out who our guardian angel was, and go home and write like a report on it. I mean, it was Catholic school for you, right? Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So for me, I'm able to connect with that highest part of myself, and I see her as literally as me, as this, my soul, basically, I guess is one way of saying it. And then I have guides who are around, and I get information that comes in, and I listen to it. And I feel like I've got angels. And when I'm with people, I can very often see angels behind them. I feel like all of us have this army of angels. And it's just a matter of asking for their help. And if we ask for their help, they're there. They don't interfere with us. That's why we have to ask. So they're there. That's what I believe. And it's the more that I go along with that, the better off I am.
Yeah. And Overcomer Nation, I want to encourage you to listen for the similarities and not look for the differences too often. Differences are there to divide us. One of my favorite Gandhi quotes is, God has no religion, because before there was religion, there was God. Right. And
totally.
so, I mean, so we all use these different descriptive words, but So in almost every faith, you can find them tracking to the same thing that says, yes, we do have angels on our side. We have an army of angels, and you can call that the energy that you feel good or that surrounds you or whatever you want to use, but it's there and it's real. And I appreciate how my Sedona Soul Adventure helped me to make it more real in my life. I think that was amazing. I don't want to get off this call without just talking a little bit more about this book here, The Journey to Happy. Isn't that what we all want? It's interesting. It turns out that there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. And I think that Debra does a great job in this book telling you just about that. And it's embracing the concept that it's nothing is wrong. I know there's, 9 principles or 9 steps to that. And, maybe you could just share a little summary about, the message that you're trying to get across in that book. And then I'm going to encourage everybody to get the book so that you can be on your journey to happy. But yeah, can you just share a little bit about it? Okay.
Well, I tell the story of how I went from being a stressed out divorce attorney and how everything changed for me. And the big thing about that is, like you said, embracing the concept that nothing is wrong and how that can transform your life. Because I believe we're creating our reality in every moment. So when we think things are wrong, then we stay stuck. And that doesn't matter, whether you're talking about your work, your money, your body, your relationship. And so when you are looking at things from a different way, that is how the magic happens. When we drop our resistance, when we stop pushing against what we don't want, because when we push against it, we actually energize it and make it bigger. What we resist persists.
What we resist persists. Okay.
So we have to learn how to drop our resistance. And so the book has 9 different processes. That's one of the reasons why it's so powerful, is that it's got 9 different processes on how to do this. So this is much more than positive thinking. It's really about changing your focus, shifting your attention, and changing your energetic vibration to bring in the life you've always dreamed of. Because see, this is all about, and what I'm talking about in the book is everything is about energy. It's all about vibration. That's how I was able to release 40 pounds in 5 weeks without diet or exercise, because it's about energy. And so it's all about, what energy are you putting out? Are you putting out the energy of love and excitement and enthusiasm and success and abundance? Or are you putting out the energy and the vibration of
Yeah. Right. Getting rid of the gunk, right? I mean,
yeah, right. Exactly. And so that is, it's all about how to move out of the old energy of unhappiness and disappointment and frustration and move into and stay in the energy of excited expectation and abundance and love and happiness.
Wow. One of my favorite Wayne Dyer quotes is, if we change the way that we look at things, the things we look at change, right?
Exactly.
And it's about embracing things in a different way. And I'd like to try to repeat what you said there. It's about shifting your focus, changing your intention, and changing your vibration. Is that what you said?
Exactly.
Okay.
And so it's all about, how are you thinking about things? How are you talking about things? How are you dealing with things? And when you can shift that into talking about things and thinking about things in a higher, faster vibration, it's all about the energy. And that's when the energy shifts and moves. This goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's all about, when you are staying in these higher, faster vibrations, that's when the magic happens.
Now, there's certain emotions that are tied to different vibrations, and I know that we could probably do a whole another call on that, but love being one of the highest, right? Or the highest, right? Fear being one of the lowest, right? So it's when we can, change our focus, right? Change our intention, just look at things differently, shift our mindset, and no longer live in fear, but come at things from a place of love, right?
It's, It's so true. We could talk about it for hours, but it's actually really simple. And I talk about this very specifically in my book because your emotions are telling you in every moment how you're vibrating. So you're either feeling good or you're feeling bad.
Right.
So, we have all these words, we have all these different emotions and all of that, but what it really comes down to is you're either feeling good or you're feeling bad. And if you're feeling bad, or if you're starting to feel yourself slipping down into the feeling bad, there are simple things that you can do. One of the processes that I talk about in the book is tapping, where very quickly and easily using the acupressure points. And this was all developed by a psychologist who used it with his patients. And it's also based on Chinese medicine using the acupressure points. And so very quickly and easily, you can bring yourself into a higher vibration, literally in 5 minutes. And so there's all these different tools that I have in the book and that we teach people at Sedona Soul Adventures for moving yourself out of the lower vibrations, the unhappy emotions, into the higher vibrations and the higher energy.
Wow. Yeah, it's just so amazing. If we're just open to what the whole world has to offer, how much more we could experience and how much more we could learn. I went for acupuncture before, and it was better for me than a chiropractic adjustment, how much it helped with my back pain and things such as that. And there's just so much there.
Because it's moving energy.
Yeah.
It's moving energy. And I mean, Einstein, this is all science. Einstein proved that everything is energy. And that's what's happening in quantum physics. Even this, the microphone that looks so solid, it's just a bunch of energy running around in a particular way. That's what everything is. Everything is energy. And so energy is actually, if you just know little ways of doing it, energy is really simple to move around and change. And especially when it's our own energy. And that's the really good news about all this stuff, is we get to choose how we feel in every moment. Things can be going on. There's all kinds of stuff going on. And we can either focus on the stuff that is making us crazy, making us unhappy, making us frustrated, or we can focus on how do I want to feel? And there's things that we can do to make a choice of staying in the vibration that we want to stay in.
Wow. I definitely recommend reading this book, Overcomer Nation. There's so many knowledge bombs in this book, just so many great lessons, tools, strategies, things that you can use. So important. Debra, I have I think it's kind of a powerful question. You've wrote this book and you've created Sedona Soul Adventures. It's obvious that they're both part of your legacy. However, if there is one thing that, you really want the world to get, you've had awakenings in your life. I consider you most spiritual person I've ever met. It's just amazing what you've been called to do and assembled together, called so many other great spiritual people together to help people, help others that need it. What's the ultimate goal? What is that thing that you want people to be able to get from you, from your book, from your Sedona Soul Adventures?
I want people to know that real and lasting change is possible. That no matter what circumstance they find themselves in, because when I came to Sedona for the first time 23 years ago, every single part of my life was a mess. And I was so miserably unhappy and felt so stuck and so frustrated. And the thing that I have discovered over the years is that real and lasting change is possible. We simply have to take responsibility for our lives. We need to stop blaming other people. We need to stop, blaming circumstances, blaming the world, whatever it is you're blaming. It all comes back to an inside job with you. And so it's really, really, really very simple. It all comes down to that one sentence: real and lasting change is possible.
Real and lasting change is possible. Yeah, too often, we go and we might get hyped up or just have a short-term feel-good experience. Who knows what we do to get that? We could have gone to a concert or had a few drinks, and we look to at least change our state. And we believe that it can only be achieved temporarily. But I believe what you're really offering people with Sedona Soul Adventures, and even just begin with the book Journey to Happy, is real lasting change that's possible. That's awesome. That's so good. Yeah, how can people get more? Let's talk about that. Let's let them know, where to go. Like, how do they get more of you? Can they get on your email list? How do they check out Sedona Soul Adventures? How do they get a copy of this book? All that.
It's very easy. Go to sedonasouladventures.com. And if you're interested in a retreat, you can fill out a form or call our office to talk to one of our soul guides. If you'd like to get it on our newsletter, I send out a newsletter every Sunday that is filled with information. You can go on my YouTube channel, which is Soul Adventures TV. I've got over 50 videos there on all kinds of subjects, including what I was just talking about today about tapping, teaching people about tapping and all kinds of different processes. So it's really easy. We're really available. And the best thing is to talk to one of our soul guides. There's no cost, there's no obligation. When we're talking to you, what we're doing is making sure that we're a fit for you and that you are a fit for us. And if you are looking to make a change, if your life is not everything that you want it to be, if your relationship is not everything you want it to be, I personally believe that our birthright is to be happy and healthy and prosperous and connected. And if that's not going on for you, then you need to do something about it. That's the definition of insanity, thinking that you're going to keep on doing the same thing and get a different result. You're not. So doing a retreat is just so absolutely amazing. They are absolutely life-changing. Or read my book. That will also give you a really, really easy way to do it. I priced the Kindle version at 99 cents, so as many people as possible could get it. So if nothing else, do that, because that can even start a real transformation.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Debra Stangl, Overcomer Nation, take your journey to happy, whether it begins with the book or just going to sedonasouladventures.com. There's lots of ways to do it, but I just can't give enough of a testimonial to just say how much it's meant to me and how honored I am to now be becoming part of your team. So thank you. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much, Travis. It was really fun.
Thanks for listening, Overcomer Nation. Make sure if you haven't already, give us a 5-star rating. Make sure that you share this and subscribe so you can see all of our future content.
That's right. And if you'd like to be a guest on a future show, go to overcomers-podcast.com. If you're interested in our franchise opportunities with Journey 333, then go to www.journeyfitness333.com. And finally, if you like what you heard today and you feel like you're somebody that needs a bit more coaching, go to travisbarnes.com.